For a choosing beggar, free is never enough. Prepare to cringe at some really awkward and hilarious requests from these choosing beggars. This dental worker tries to be kind to a friend by giving him a service for free, but it all backfires when this friend decides it wasn't good enough. A teacher marks the grades of several papers, but one student isn't happy. You'll laugh when you hear what crazy thing the student does to try to raise their mark. And our fan submitted story. Obey the rules apparently doesn't apply to this entitled man. He keeps wanting this woman to bend the rules for his benefit. What does she do about it? You'll only find out by watching this episode of VoiceyHere's Choosing Beggars. This story was called, I Want a Refund for My Free Dental Whitening. Some background. I work in Brazil. Around here is usual to work as a dentist to someone who owns a big clinic, as in a partnership. You use their materials and they get the payment returning to you a share. But you are free to do your prices, choose your clients, as long as you give their share. So now to the beggar. As soon as you graduate in dentistry, you received a curse. The beggary. Relatives, cousins, close friends, not so close friends, people that think you are their friend. All of them start to ask for dental cleaning, filling, whitening for free. You charge your family? Come on, just this time, etc. I never do this kind of stuff, but a friend of mine was about to get married and asked for some help to get better in the photos. I then offer him a dental cleaning as a gift for the wedding. The procedure is done by applying the product in the office per 3 sessions, 3 separate dates. 2 sessions went fine, no problems at all. Different people respond differently for the whitening for various reasons. His teeth got white on the 3rd, but not that white as in the TV commercials. I explained to him, and at the end of the process he thanked me and went home. But the next morning, suspense music, I was called to my boss's office. Great guy, a friend of mine. Let's call him Big Boss. I got there and the convo was as follows. Hello man, I call you here because this gentleman here said that you did a poor job in his whitening and he is unsatisfied with your service. I think he thought my boss wouldn't call me for this because he was almost hidden underneath the table. Really? I thought I had explained very well about the procedure to him, and this was the best I could do. Can you explain to us again why you are unsatisfied? Well, my wedding is about to come, and my teeth didn't get the way I expected. And for this reason, I would like my money back. Money back? You didn't pay for it, was the only thing in my head. You want the money back? What do you mean by it? If you want, I can offer you a complimentary treatment for a better price, but I offered this treatment to you as a gift. It came from my payment. No, it didn't. I paid for this, and I refuse to pay a nickel more for anything. I want the money. My boss looked at me and knew I was in the right, because I generally don't upset any patient, and when I do, I work it out on my own. Well, you really don't want to accept the offer? No, I want the money, and you will give it to me. It is my right. Well, okay, no problem. Boss, please cancel the credit card transaction from the treatment, and we are done here. I paid the part of the clinic on card. Our system registers the card on the payment for further consults, and therefore my card would receive the money back. Choosing Beggar almost had a heart attack. No, I want the money back. I prefer it that way. And the card is already cancelled. But it was in a credit card, so the payment will be cancelled, and you will not need to take it out of your pocket. I don't want it like that. I want the money. The boss looked in the system, saw my name in the credit card info. We don't save PIN, just the last 4 digits. Sir, I look at the system and I'm cancelling the transaction. The charge will not be done and you are fine to go. I didn't agree to this. I wanted the money. Give me the money or I'll sue you. I'll come back with the police. I looked Choosing Beggar dead in the eye. Okay, go get them. We will be here waiting. Our lawyer number is on this one. You can contact him with any of your complaints. This isn't over. He walks away. My boss gave the money back to me, and we still are waiting to hear from his lawyer. Needless to say that I didn't go to the wedding, and I will not do anything for free ever again. It's so awkward. Like if someone's giving you a nice gift, and they even warned you like it might not turn exactly as you expect, only to then basically try and scam them for the money. Once he made the decision to do that, surely he knew like this is a relationship ending decision here. This person probably won't come to my wedding and they won't want to be friends with me anymore. This story was called Begging student tries to choose his own grade. Some background. I teach a STEM course at a university, and had this weird interaction with a student recently. I figured this sub would get a kick out of it. To protect identities, I won't name the course or subject specifically, as it's not really relevant. What you do need to know is that there is a midterm, worth 20% of the total grade, and a final exam worth 50%. Let's call the begging student in question John. John was an English as a second language student that didn't have great English, and he was not doing great in the course. This made his midterm very hard to mark. There were a lot of short answer questions, and I needed to be able to understand what John was trying to convey in his answers, so that I could mark them fairly. This is really difficult in general when students have a bad grasp of English. Marking his midterm ended up taking about an hour. Most of the other tests took about 15 to 20 minutes. This made it very memorable to me, which becomes important later. Anyway, John ended up with a midterm grade of around 21 out of 40. A couple of months later, the final exam is here. Unfortunately for John, he bombed it. It actually didn't take long to mark because most of his answers were blank. A couple weeks later, I sent out his final grade, an F. This is where the begging starts. The following is a paraphrase of many emails and in-person conversations. I only failed the course by 3%. Can you give me a break? Honestly, with students this close to the pass-fail threshold, I do try to be lenient where I can, but your exam was mostly blank. I can't give you marks for nothing. Please, I was sick during the exam. This was 2 weeks after the exam, and the first time I'm hearing of this. Why didn't you say anything before? You needed to get a doctor's note or let me know on the exam day. John, realizing his excuse is super suspicious. My family is very poor, and I cannot afford another semester. I need to pass this course, please. The begging went on for a bit, and eventually I told him that it was out of my hands because the grades were already finalized. He did have another option though. I told him that there is an appeals process. If he wants to try that, he has to give an explanation of why he thinks he deserves a different grade to a separate committee, not me, and they decide if a grade change is deserved. I thought that this would get him out of my hair. Nope. A few days later, I get a very confusing email. Hey, so my midterm was actually 31 out of 40, not 21 out of 40, so I actually passed the course. I had a very strong memory of him barely passing his midterm. This didn't make sense. When I asked to see the physical copy of the exam to confirm, he tells me that he lost it while moving. Of course he did. Now I have all sorts of questions, like how did he know the mark I recorded was 21 out of 40 if it was a mistake? He never saw my grading spreadsheet. How did he check his midterm to find the new grade of 31 out of 40 if it was lost? Is he really telling me he found this convenient error that magically solves all his problems, and then immediately loses the evidence? So John tells me with this made-up grade he deserves a pass, and he will indeed make a formal appeal. Well, I don't like being lied to, so at this point I do the slightly malicious thing and just let him. I don't tell him how ridiculous I think his story is. I don't tell him that there is no way anyone will ever believe that. I also didn't tell him that I believed him either. I just let him do whatever crazy thing he wanted. John ended up initiating the appeals process, which cost somewhere around $100. Predictably, it went nowhere. Incredibly, he actually asked me several weeks later if I would back up his story, because that's the only way the appeal would go through. That was a hard no from me. I'm still trying to figure out how he thought his plan would work. Very few people end up happy with the mark they receive. Unless, of course, you know you did well and you received a good grade, or you know you did poorly and you received a bad grade. But you hear stories all the time of teachers and lecturers who it doesn't look like they know what they're doing on the papers, especially when they compare their paper with someone else's and can see they've been unfairly marked. Of course, there's always that person who complains when it's just clear that they didn't put in the effort. Every now and then, I guess the teacher gets their revenge. This fan-submitted story was called How Dare I Not Abuse the Handicap Spot? So this happened to me today. A little bit of backstory. My mother-in-law, who is the sweetest but most stubborn person I know, was diagnosed with a rare form of scoliosis, which will only get worse with time. She has a hard time accepting this, but at the very least, she's admitted that she needs the handicapped plank for her car, because she runs the risk of her leg giving out without warning if she's too tired. This results also in that my husband and I help her out as much as possible, like driving her around or carrying heavy things for her. She is not the choosy beggar of this story. She had needed me to drive her to a doctor's appointment at the hospital, and in doing so, I had asked if it was okay if I borrowed the car to do a little shopping, which was okay. We agreed that she would call me when she was done, and I'd then go pick her up. Now, the handicap planks in where I live are written out of the person who needs them, so they can be moved from car to car. Like parking in the handicap spot without said person with you, you won't just get a fine, you will get a 2 clips in your driver's license. If you get a third one, kiss it goodbye, and the plank gets taken away. Now, when I got to the shopping center, it was pretty crowded, and only 2 handicap spots were free, so I naturally do what any normal person would do: circle the parking lot and pray I can find a spot before my mother-in-law calls. It took a while, but I finally found one, and had just parked when this guy from his car yells at me, "That was my spot!" Sorry, you didn't signal, and I was here first. I'm not kidding either. I always check and signal in parking lots to avoid stealing spots from others that have been waiting for it. He hadn't been there when the previous car pulled out. "Well, move it!" No, I got here first. You weren't here when I parked. At that moment, another car a bit away pulled out. There's a spot there that's free. He grumbled a bit about it before aggressively driving over to the other spot and parked. I thought that was it as I locked my car and started to head inside. I had barely gotten to the first door when this idiot grabs my shoulder. "You just had to take my spot, didn't you? Didn't want anyone to see you using your sign, faker." I'm sorry, what are you talking about? "I saw your sign in the front window. You don't look disabled." Okay, first off, it's not mine. "Ha, I knew it." And second, where do you get off asking someone to prove a disability? What business is it of yours? It's my mother-in-law's. "Well, you should have used it then." No, I shouldn't, because she's not here. The plank is for her to use, so if she's not here, it's illegal to use. Besides, see these things here? I gestured to my legs. They are called legs. Mine work, so yeah, gonna use them. "Well then let me use the plank." What? "Let me use it to park closer to this door, if you aren't gonna use it." You're a special kind of stupid if you think I'm gonna let a stranger use it, because he can't handle walking his lazy butt 3 feet to a store. I then turned away, flipping him the bird, as he called me a bee, for not illegally parking my car, or letting him. Sad thing is, this isn't the first time someone's asked me this, though 2 other times it was with a car that belonged to a home for disabled adults. How anyone thinks this is okay is still beyond me. I guess for some people in life, they want to take any advantage they can, and they're very happy to take advantage of disabled people to do so. Fortunately, the hero of our story was doing the right thing. You just know that if the man in the story had a disabled relative, he'd be taking advantage of that thing every single day. This story was called "Complete Stranger Wants to Know Why I Didn't Buy Her Kid a Wedding Gift." One of my pet peeves is when I get invites to various events, weddings, graduations, baby showers, etc., that I'm obviously not expected to attend from people I either barely know or don't know at all. That in and of itself is already a form of begging for gifts, and the culprit is usually a distant relative or friend of a relative who I have so little contact with that I don't even recognize their name. Now, if I know the person who sent me an invite, I'll of course send something or attend, but if I don't know them, I'll typically just roll my eyes and toss it. So far this has worked out pretty well, and I think most people who do this are probably just hoping to get lucky, instead of actually expecting someone who barely knows their mum's cousin's friend to send them a gift. Fast forward to today. I'm at a private family gathering, and my phone starts vibrating. I check and it's a Facebook message, so I completely silence it. Certain relatives are able to get through my D&D settings in case of emergency, so I'm not worried about that. Afterwards, I look at my phone and find that several messages have been sent to me from someone I don't know. Said person has been friended, but I'm drawing a blank as to how this came about. I read over the message and determine that this woman is ticked off at me because I didn't send a wedding gift in response to her daughter's invitation. So I tell her that I have no idea who she is and that I don't normally respond or send gifts if I don't know the person. And I ask her how I know her. She doesn't appear to be connected to any relatives or any of my other friends. She doesn't bother answering my question and goes straight into the rule that if you receive an invitation, you have to send a gift. I correct her that no, there's no such rule, and I repeat that I don't know who she is. This woman then comes back at me and says that I've insulted her and her daughter, and that I have to buy her daughter the $200 Instapot on her registry to make up for it. She continues insisting this and calling me every name in the book, so I'm messaging my mum and a few other people, trying to figure out who this is and if anyone knows her, which they don't. Because for whatever reason, I'm still trying to avoid any kind of issue with a family member or friend, just on the off chance that this is someone they know. While going through her profile, I finally figure it out. I'd friended this woman on Facebook several years back as a Farmville friend. Farmville. I haven't played it in what seems like forever, and somehow this woman had remained as a Facebook friend and had been overlooked when I removed everyone, and she'd sent me a freaking Evite over Facebook to her daughter's wedding, which I declined. My cousin, who's on the phone with me at this point, starts dying laughing at my expense when I relay this to her. To be fair, I totally deserve to be mocked over that. So, yeah. That oversight was soon corrected. I honestly have never heard of this rule before that if you send an invite, then you should expect to see a gift, even if they don't show up. Have you guys ever heard of this rule before? I wonder if this lady just added hundreds of people on Facebook. She's like, one day this will pay off when my daughter has a wedding. Yeah, not likely, lady. If you'd like your story to be narrated by me, don't forget to visit the subreddit r/VoiceyHere, link below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.